On this episode of TheraFit, we welcome Kelby Deerman. Kelby is a native of Huntsville, Alabama, and in 2014 he graduated from the University of Alabama with a Bachelor of Science in Exercise and Sports Science. While at Alabama, Kelby played baseball and worked in the University of Alabama Strength and Conditioning Department with throws and football. After college, he worked at the prestigious Cressy Sports Performance Center in Massachusetts. Kelby is the owner of Legacy Performance in Newport News, Virginia. Today he's going to talk about the benefits of exercise in youth. Now, from a nutritional standpoint, for growing young bodies, what are the best foods to intake?
Probably anything. And I know that sounds bad, but I think they're just trash compactors. But I mean, obviously you want to keep with your lean meats, your proteins, right? If you're looking to grow. But the interesting thing is with these kids, and like I said, they're trash compactors. I believe they can just scarf down anything and they're not going to feel the effects right now. So if they have a goal in mind of bulking, of getting big for the point of sport, then it's like you got to do what you got to do. You got to have some sort of sacrifice. If they're truly trying to eat clean and be okay with the fact they may not bulk up as quick or they may not look a certain way, then let's do what the books tell us to do. Let's eat lean proteins, Let's not have too many fatty foods, if you will, sugary foods. Let's do things by the book at that point.
Yeah, which that actually walks perfectly into my next question. Or if you're trying to be a peak performer, what sorts of foods should you avoid if you're looking to be a top performing athlete?
It's interesting because I have to pause at this now because I think my personal dynamics have shifted.
Yeah.
Because like I said, we want to hear the same thing. We want vegetables, fruits, lean proteins, good starchy, low GI vegetables, or starches, whatever. But I think in B-top shape, I think honestly it comes down to looking at everything. Sometimes you're in a caloric deficit as an elite athlete, and you got to know when it's time to scarf down a whole pizza, right? So I think at times that's okay because you got to get the calories back in you. At other times, yeah, you need to settle for the steak and the broccoli. But I mean, to answer your question with what foods should you probably go for? Like I said, you can't go wrong with your chickens, your lean meats, right? And baked potatoes, sweet potatoes on the carb end.
Yeah, the avoidance. No, that's okay. That's all good information too. But I'm saying, like, what food should I avoid if I want to be a top performer? Like, carbonation. Is there anything that I should not want to eat or consume on a regular?
On a regular. I mean, too much ice cream, too much Oreos, too many binge eating foods like your Oreos when you're watching movies, your chips when you're just hanging out. Avoid the idea of eating when you're bored, right? Just to restate it, would be a good place to start.
And what about those foods, make your avoidance list?
Just the fact that you're only eating because you're bored. You're only eating because you have nothing to do. They're easy to consume in excess.
Are there any dietary fads? Because that certain circuits of adult lifters and certain adult fitness people are eating certain types of ways or certain styles of foods. Paleo diets. All those. Are there any food fads that aren't necessarily good for younger, less mature athletes?
Yeah, I would say anything that restricts. So if you look at a ketogenic diet, right, taking away some carbs. We had a friend who swam who tried that diet, and it's hard to do it on that unless you're really self-disciplined to know when you should do certain things. But when you take away your carbs, you're going to need those as a form of energy when you're real intense with your body and through a certain range of certain period of time. So I think any diet that tends to restrict you from any one macronutrient.
Okay. Now, for the young athlete, supplementing, how safe is it for young athletes to consume supplements, or should they not consume supplements, or which ones should they, or can they use?
I'm not a big supplement guy. The NCAA has a huge list of what you can eat if you want it. I think I would try to do it as with much whole food as possible. Supplements are I'm not too familiar with them anymore. I know in college it was like muscle milk and stuff like that. So if you're really interested, I would go to the NCAA and figure out what kind of supplements, if you're an athlete, can be used instead of banned.
And you talked about just eating lots of holistic foods. Where's the best place that you find to shop for really great fruits and vegetables and holistic foods? Do you have particular places that you prefer, like farmers markets or co-ops, or how do you like to find your food?
Farm markets are nice. I mean, maybe one day I would do all my shopping there, but right now I pretty much go between Trader Joe's and Whole Foods. Whole Foods because we're right next to it, but Trader Joe's just because I like what they stand for. I like their stuff, and it's easy to get in and out of.
Yeah. So what sorts of things were you eating, as a young athlete, kind of looking back at your life, playing baseball? What sorts of things were you consuming as you trained?
Oh gosh, anything I get my hands on. Honestly, I couldn't gain weight my freshman year at all, so I was doing what I thought was best to gain weight. Like I heard protein, right? So I would just eat as much protein as I could, which didn't necessarily work too well because I didn't have enough carbohydrates or I didn't have enough of this or that. But anything I get my hands on. I wasn't very religious about my diet when I was an athlete, whether it's lack of education or what. I thought it was good to have, eggs, oatmeal, sausage, bacon, and orange juice in the morning, so that's what I did. No rhyme or reason, it's just what I thought I should do to gain weight, because at that point it was all about how much can I consume.
So what have you learned?
A lot. A lot. And I tinker still. I don't really do anything ideal right now with my diet. So I would learn that experimenting is good. Not one way is the right way. And I think learn to be aware of yourself, because when we start to have that body awareness, then we start to know it's like, all right, I need a whole pizza tonight. Okay, I probably don't need a whole pizza tonight. It's a good day to go get ice cream, enjoy life a little bit. And then when you really got to buckle down and say, okay, we're going to have meats, veggies, and potatoes or something like that, beans, rice, you can do that. So
yeah. Have you ever heard of orthorexia?
No.
It's the opposite of almost of anorexia, basically where people get so health conscious, where all they focus on is it organic, is it this, is it that. So they hyper focus on the food that they eat, and it becomes almost a danger.
Mm-hmm.
So what I wanted to ask you with that is, should you young athletes be too strict? Because you talked about just being able to maybe have pizza or have ice cream, but you always have those who are going to be too strict on themselves, and it could cause problems.
I think they're trash compactors. So it's like their problem is they don't eat enough, right? And I'm thinking of a high school male, right? Myself in high school trying to obtain that image or that whatever it is I'm shooting for, or I think I'm shooting for. And it's not eating enough. So it's consume. And then it becomes a point of, let's not get too serious about it, right? Like I said, you have a time where you can sacrifice that. I think if a high school kid gets too serious about the exact foods they eat, either they're probably a really elite athlete, right? Or they had whatever you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. Nah, hey, it's a real thing.
Wow.
Just being overly health conscious.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
Yeah. We talked a little bit about just enjoying food and caring for the body, but mindfulness in eating.
Mm-hmm.
Just taking time not to just scarf it into, because we're talking about athletes just, like you said, trash compactors piling it in. But how important is it just to enjoy the food you eat?
I think enjoying food is a good thing. It tastes good for a reason. And that again, I mean, personal experience, trying to just scarf down food for the sake of it being a job and fuel or whatever, I think can be misleading. I think enjoying certain foods, whether you like tasting foods from different countries and things like that, that they have a heritage with them, right? They speak more than just what they're tasting like, if you will.
Yeah. Now, I know you're a man of faith. How important is your walk with God to the work that you do in serving other people?
I think it's it's really important. It's exemplified every day in like how your legacy is ran. It's just who we are. Making sure we care for people, make sure the people that are in our clientele list or our athletes, they're cared for. They know that they're cared for. It's just an extension of who we are.
Thank you for listening to this session of TheraFit. If you like what you just heard, we hope you'll pass along our web address, holisticfamilysolutions.com, to your friends and colleagues. Be sure to check out the archive section of our website for previous podcasts. This has been an HFS production. Join us next time for another edition of TheraFit.